Today we're doing N is for notes, Lotus Notes to be precise. And I'm joined by Eva and her sister Pippin, who you can kind of nearly see. She's just a big ball of blackness, really, our puppy. So Lotus Notes, probably, I'd say without a doubt, the most universally despised piece of software used by the largest number of people. So in its heyday, 130 million users used Lotus Notes and probably about 129,990,000 didn't like it. So why was that? Why was it so unpopular? Well, before we get to that, how did it become so successful? For the period from around 1990 to 2010, Lotus Notes was really the standard for how organisations were able to share applications across their organisation. And this was a time before the proliferation of cloud computing. So the things that Lotus Notes was really good at was allowing you to distribute an application. This was in a world where client server was how you did stuff. To get an application onto a computer, it had to actually be on your computer, not just accessed via a browser. Mm-hmm. And that was tricky to do. And what Lotus Notes made it really easy to do was actually distribute that application without requiring an army of IT people, technology people, experts. So I did that. Second thing is it made it really easy to develop applications. I first encountered Lotus Notes in the late 90s working in New York as a consultant for a large financial services organisation. And when I first saw Lotus Notes, I have to admit, I was like, what on earth is this? Because it didn't make any sense to me. I was used to relational database systems, and it was not. It was a document-centric application. You could create forms and views, and as a non-technical or with limited technical skills, you could do it really easily and create an application, and then you could replicate it across a whole bunch of users in your organisation. And the third thing that made it really successful was that it was secure. So IT administrators and security didn't have to worry. So those three things, it was able to be distributed very easily, you could create applications really easily, and it was secure, made Lotus Notes incredibly well adopted across a large number of organisations. And they were bought by IBM, and so immediately I had access to a huge sales force that pushed it out. So Lotus Notes was really successful. In a sense, it was SharePoint before SharePoint, it was Salesforce before Salesforce, Dropbox before Dropbox, Workday before Workday, Atlassian before Atlassian. You get the idea. It was all these things in a client-server mode. So where did it all go wrong? Well, in the mid-90s, Lotus added a web application server to Domino, the server component, and it also added an email server and an email application and calendar application. So that seems like a great idea, and it was. But over the next 10 years, what happened was the vast majority of users were primarily using the email and calendar application. And the fact that there was so much more that you could do with Lotus Notes, they didn't care. They just found that the Lotus Notes email and calendar was harder to use, slower, more prone to errors than the main competitor, which was Microsoft Outlook. And that's why you ended up with a huge number of users pretty dissatisfied. And so much like Jeff Goldblum's famous quote from Jurassic Park, life finds a way, users and usability finds a way to dominate. In the end, users will adopt and will force the adoption of applications that they find much easier to use, and it doesn't matter what the administrators or the architects or the security architects want to try and force on the users will find a way. And so that is why Lotus Notes was fantastically successful and then quite well hated until eventually losing relevance as the tech landscape shifted. Okay, that's Lotus Notes. Okay, cheers.